This is an interview with Nora Hurd and Joanne Carlstrom. Today's date is February 8, 2009, and my name is Nicholas Perry, and I'm with the WRI. What's your connection to the Consolis? How are you related?
I am a great-granddaughter of Giovanni and Cipriana Consoli.
Okay. And did you grow up in Reche Canyon?
Yes. I went to this country school up here with my cousins. And I was the third generation that went to the school. My mother went to that school and her siblings. And my grandfather went to that school. His name was Edward Consoli. And his desk was still there and had his initials carved in it. When I went there, we weren't supposed to do things like that, but they did. I don't think I ever carved my name or anything, but maybe on a tree or so up there. But
how long did you go to school there for?
I was there for 6 years.
Till 6th grade, and then did you move, or did you go to a different school?
I moved to San Diego and went to school for a few months there, and then I moved back and finished the school year here, and then went on down to Colton schools.
Did the school only go up to middle school and then you had to leave to go to high school?
It went to 8th grade.
8th grade?
Yes, they graduated from there and then they went down to Colton schools for high school.
Okay. What was it like growing up in Reche Canyon?
Awesome.
Awesome?
We didn't realize it then. We just had a lot of fun. But at this time in my life, I'm 69 years old now, and we had the best of everything. Living in the country the way we did. Mm-hmm. And now that it's opened up to where we have all of these memories, it's just awesome. At this stage, I like to see the Consoli story going forward, and not just lost in a book somewhere.
Okay. You had a really neat story about a geocaching?
Yes.
With the Ferndale School?
Yes, with the Ferndale School property. My cousin and I, Teresa Shetler, she came here from Florida and she wanted to learn. She'd been away from the canyon for many years, and she wanted to learn more of the Consoli history. So we decided to take a walk up to the school grounds. And while there, we discovered we weren't even looking for this, hadn't even known that there was any such thing. But we were looking for, I was showing her the Indian grinding stones that were up there on the school property. And I was showing her where the school property had been, the schoolhouse had been. And we took pictures, and then we found, accidentally, this geocache box in the crevice between two great big boulders, and we were brave enough to go ahead and open it up, and were able to find out more information of who put it there, because we were curious, who put this thing here? And by that evening we were able to get a phone number, well, a website first and then a phone number. And this man, his name is Stacy. I can't remember his last name right at this point, but we got hold of him, and he and his son were the ones that put the geocache box there. And by opening the box, we were enthralled, because in there was questions about where was this school, when was it there, how did the building, what direction did the building set, and all of that. And I was able to give him information from some of the writings that my father had written about the Consoli family, Russell McDonald, and was able to give him pictures. And now that information is back in the cache box. There's a lot of information in there, and I knew that they had the right story, that we were able to add to it.
Interesting.
And this has kind of opened up a friendship with these people too that have set that cache box there.
Okay. While living in Reche Canyon, did you experience any types of disasters like a flood or fires, or have you heard of any fires or anything that happened?
Fires here that were pretty devastating. I know when I was a kid, I don't know what year it was, I must have been maybe 10 years old or so. There was a big fire in the back part of the canyon here, and we got in Papa's weapon carrier and took a ride out there and seen where rabbits had caught on fire, and they extend the fire even farther because they get to running away from it and they start other things on fire. And then there's been several fires here, but I can't remember the years. Over here on the what we called the pathway, the Consoli Springs pathway, it burned a lot of the eucalyptus trees down.
And he planted those trees here? They were here naturally?
No.
And you were talking about a pulley for to cross the springs, or to cross the creek?
Across from this house, basically this mountain here across the way, and I don't know what the true meaning for having this here, but all I know is my granddad said he was the one that decided that they should have something like this. I think it was like for just something to ride on and have fun with. That my grandfather got stuck out in the middle of it. I don't know how he came down, if he just jumped off or what.
I remember Grandpa telling me the story, my grandpa,
Yeah.
Huddleston, and it was a horrible thing to get him down.
And this was they would get stuck in the middle of the creek bed, or
this is one person did. They would. This is Joanne, by the way. They would take things over in the bucket, not just people, you know, pulling it back. And then he decided he wanted to go in it. Uncle Buck knows that story. Maybe I can get it out of him. Yeah, he's the one that used to talk about it.
Okay, and what experiences do you have with Consoli Springs?
When I was a young girl, my cousin Florence and I would, they didn't have running water, so she would come up to my house or meet me down at the bottom of the hill here with her little red wagon. And she was responsible for going up with a couple of big milk cans and getting water to take back to her house. That would be from the springs up there. And what we would do on those days would be take a little lunch with us and go up and play around, have our lunch, and get the water and drink the water and actually go all over the hills up there. It took us a while for her to get back with the water.
Is that how you got your water?
That isn't how we got our water. No.
Did a lot of people get their water from the springs?
At certain times.
Well, at certain times, yes.
Like
but at that
in the summer months, like in drought, or just when they needed water?
Yeah, I know Aunt Carmen and them, they had a well. Aunt Vicky had a well.
Grandma had a well.
Your grandma had a well. We didn't have a well here, but Papa, my granddad, Edward Consoli, would go up with his big weapon carrier truck, and he would fill a great big 250 gallon tank that he had on the truck, and he would bring it up here, and my mom and dad would put it in cans or whatever. So
is that how you got water?
That's how we got water when I was a kid.
How do you get water now where you live?
We have our own well now.
You have your own well?
Yes.
The same place she lived when she was a child.
Yes, and we're on the same property that I lived at when I was a child.
Okay. What types of jobs did people have in Reche Canyon up here? Like the Consolis, what did they do?
The Consolis sold water from that spring, and they had a route between Los Angeles and Imperial Valley. And at first, I don't know, was it horse and buggy? Maybe not. It was these old cars, at least, these old trucks. There's pictures of the trucks.
You've got some pictures.
Yes, we have pictures of the trucks. And they would truck that water. It was a high-grade mineral water, very, very healthful. There's been a lot of claims that, some of them you can take it with a grain of salt, but I know when we were kids growing up here, we didn't have to go to dentists. You had beautiful, perfect teeth because it had a natural fluoride in this water. And when I moved away in 1970, after that time is when I started getting cavities. Because that's what I always felt. You were away from the water.
You were older then, because you raised some of your kids.
I raised my kids here,
So you believe that the water...
I think it had a lot of...
helped your
It did
teeth?
have natural fluoride in it, yes. And it... we were just healthy up here.
Yeah, it was good.
So there's different types of mineral waters. There was strong and soft and...
I think there was a place. I don't know where this place was. Your grandma knew.
Grandma could divine water. Did you know that, Nicholas? She did the water witches. Grandma could find
do
water.
that. Anyway, your grandma knew where this place was up here. There's a special place, and this is in some of the material that you may have. There's a special place up here that with the cattle and the livestock that would be here, they would go to this place and they would lick this rock. It was a natural mineral rock. And Great-Grandpa Consoli, I guess, zeroed in on that. And they would go and collect these minerals and put them in a jar. I have a jar of that mineral
I do too.
out there.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. And you could shake the minerals up and just kind of put your nose over it and breathe this in. And it was supposed to be a natural healing, a medicinal effect. I've never done that, but...
And he would put some of this stuff in the water, some of the water? Or he would just breathe it in?
He just found it, but I thought Uncle Dewey found it up in his cave.
Maybe that's it. I don't know.
I thought it was...
Well, he had his own 160 acres that he homesteaded.
He was the oldest son. He was the oldest son, living son.
So everybody lived off of the family business of selling water?
That was how he raised his original kids.
Yes.
The other people that lived here, Nicholas, usually left the canyon to work.
Yeah.
There were never any really jobs up here unless you owned your great vineyard like Mr. Mercandanti, and everyone else worked out of the canyon.
Okay. You told me a neat story about Giovanni meeting Teddy Roosevelt?
Yes, and those are stories that I've just heard. That's in the geocaching up there, too. There's signed papers in that. I can show you copies of that also.
He has some.
Okay. Anyway, signed papers up in there with my great-grandfather Consoli's signature and Teddy Roosevelt.
They were rumored to be friends or something?
Yes.
Or what was the...
I understand they were rumored to be friends. I've only found this story out within the last couple of months. But I guess it's true. There's supposed to be pictures somewhere of the two of them together up here at the Consoli Springs property on what they used to call the dance floor, where they had parties and from what I understand, Great-Grandpa Consoli, they actually entertained dignitaries up there. That it was kind of a famous place and a neat place for people in the valley from Los Angeles or wherever to come to. They had spaghetti feeds. That's what I heard. And maybe a little vino.
And the kids would sell things, Grandma told me.
Oh, really?
They made hand things that the girls did, and they would sell.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is a spaghetti feed? Would they just make lots of Italian food and...
Yes, and invite the friends. There's some things in a history book somewhere that even denotes that, but I'm not sure where that's at. There may be some in some of the papers that I have here that my father researched the Consoli family.
Oh, and by the way, all those newspapers that Nicholas has was her stepdad wrote them and researched.
They're referring to Reche Canyon News, right?
Russell McDonald and Norma McDonald, my mother and father.
Did the Consolis ever have any reunions here, or do people still keep in touch, or have they all just gone on their own ways?
Well, we've lost all of the original Consoli children, as we called them. That would be my great aunts and uncles and my grandfather in his generation. And we've had a couple of reunions. We would like to keep this going. I had a reunion. When was that, Joanne?
2003.
In 2003.
And then we had one in Grand Terrace about...
That was 2000.
And Aunt Helen was alive. That was in the 90s.
Yeah. We weren't up here yet. We came from Indio up here to that. I would like to keep this going, and I've been wanting to get with Joanne and see if we can get something else going. The reason we had it here at this house is we sat on 8 acres of the original 160 acres that my great-grandfather homesteaded. And from what I understand, I'm the only blood relation that lives up here anymore or owns property. Everyone else from death or other reasons have had to sell out. And the Consoli Springs doesn't belong to the family anymore. But as of this day, February the 8th, we were able to go up to the springs and take pictures. The people that are there, Claire and Sebastian, they were gracious enough to let us come in and take pictures of the springs and the old house. We were able to go around the house, and we were able to take a picture of the original rock that's only shows in one corner, the back corner. The rest of it, because the house is so old, was boarded up, has siding on the outside of it to preserve it. And I'm sure that after all these years something had to be done. And we were able to go down to the springs, the old springs where they used to sell. The water came from that springs, and we took pictures of that today.
Even got samples.
We got samples. Yes, and the water still tastes just as good as it did then.
Can you put some in a vial on your thing? Oh, that's great.
Do you know if they've ever sold mineral water to miners or any of that thing? I've heard rumors of them selling water to miners.
I've not personally heard that. But
well, I heard the story that Grandpa, when there was a typhoid epidemic or something going on in High Grove, that great-grandpa Consoli took water and gave it to them. They didn't have any fresh water, and he took it from the springs and gave it to them.
And it was probably a medicinal use.
Because they didn't have any. It was either an epidemic or a drought. I can't remember which, but these people were very destitute, and he took it to them.
Do you know anything about the wild burros in the canyon?
I don't remember the burros being there when I was a child. I understand we talked to someone that lives down there. They lived off of Woodson Road on Stewart Road, and we asked them about this, and they said what they had heard. We talked to these people about 5 years ago, that someone at this point, it would be 25 years ago, came in with a few burros. And they multiplied. And so they're not natural wild burros down there. They've just evolved from that point. But then I've heard that someone said that they've been here longer than that, but I can't see how.
Do you consider them a nuisance?
I don't
traveling
personally.
Through the canyon?
I don't personally. The only thing I see is that they are dangerous because people have been... With our narrow road, they'll stop and take pictures, and they put their life in jeopardy, really, because there's traffic. The traffic is very heavy up here anymore.
But they hit
how was the traffic before?
Oh,
when you grew up here?
The traffic was family going in and out of here.
There was no road over to Moreno Valley, which used to be Sunnymead, Nicholas.
Yeah. There wasn't the traffic then.
I knew everybody. If someone came up that we didn't know, everybody watched them.
Yeah.
They made sure that they weren't up to mischief.
What else could I say?
About the burros, I just didn't know about them. They just appeared.
They just were suddenly there. Suddenly, I say, within the last 25 years.
So you don't consider them a problem then? They're not a...
I don't personally, other than I see that it's dangerous because of the traffic, and there's been about 2 years ago, maybe a little more, there was a lady that was killed. The burros are hit all the time because of the heavy traffic, and the burros get down there on the edge of the road and they want to cross the road, so that's when they get hit. That's a problem because Riverside County hasn't come in here and made it possible to go down each side of that Reche Canyon Road and keep the brush and stuff out of the way so where you can see those burros. There's a lady that had been killed, a couple had the accident, and the burro came through the windshield, killed the burro and her instantly. She was on the rider's side.
And the traffic is, you said it's gotten heavy.
It's terrible. They use Reche Canyon Road. It's a 2-lane highway. There's very little passing that you are supposed to do legally, but people pass anyway with oncoming traffic, and they have accidents. And Riverside,
like maniacs.
Yeah, we seen an accident on the way up here.
You did?
Somebody had crashed.
We didn't see it. We just came up not long before you. That's weird.
Have you heard anything of them trying to widen the road or taking any precautions to prevent?
3 or 4 years ago, they came up here and they put down a new road base from Richie Vista over to Heacock and Paris, where it branches off there. They had that torn up clear down to dirt, and they had it torn up clear down to the county line, down the canyon, and it was dirt. And the only way you could get in here, well, they only allowed traffic to come in here if you lived here, and you had to prove that you lived here. We thought at that time that we were going to get a nice wide highway. Wrong. We did get a nice road base, and when they finally finished it off and put that white line down the middle of the road, there's no passing. You are not supposed to pass at all. There's only maybe a couple of places that you could pass legally. But the accidents are caused by people, they're going to work. In the morning, there's rush hour. In the afternoon, it's rush hour. And everybody is in a mad rush to get somewhere. And it's very dangerous, but I think that, maybe this will get back to Riverside County. That would be nice if they could realize that it is dangerous up here. And I would love to see a better highway put up. But I know that when they do that, it's going to open the canyon even worse than ever. And we're going to have a lot more houses up here, a lot more people, more traffic. And at some point, it's been told to me that the water supply, those that have wells, that if they come up here with like a metropolitan water company or whatever, and they dig their own wells, that what I have heard is that they, by law, could tell you that you have to cap off your wells and buy the water from them.
Terrible.
And if they ever do that, and put a better road through here and water, that means the canyon is going to blossom up and we're going to lose all of this rural beauty that we have back here.
Is that something that you don't want, right?
I really don't want it. I hope it doesn't happen in my lifetime. But right at this point, I don't mind the chuck holes that are in the road at all, because it kind of keeps people from wanting to be up here. Property is actually a premium up here. At one point, I don't know about the way the economy has gone now, at one point you could get $1 million an acre. $100,000 an acre, I'm sorry. $100,000 an acre. But at this point, I'm sure that it must have.
I got to tell you, Nicholas, but there's a feeling about growing up here. Nora May mentioned it earlier. One of our cousins, Carol McAvoy, her name's Hart now. She lives in Glendale. She lived in the spring house for a while with her mother when she got a divorce. Her mom got a divorce, and Grandma Dolly took care of her, and she was with us a lot. Her house in Glendale in the backyard looks a lot like the Springs. You take it with you wherever you go. And this house that we're sitting in, Nora May's, gives you a really flavor of the Springs when we were kids. It's just a quaint Italian, if you want to say Mexican, I don't know. It's just a visiting and gathering place. And that's the way Carol's and Nora May's houses are. And there's a quail on the porch. There's more than one quail.
Yeah.
There's 5 quails. And you don't get that downtown, Nicholas.
No. Yeah. We feed them, and there's 100
I
quails
know.
at a time.
There's all kinds of birds.
Or
but
100
quails
doves.
are just amazing
Yes.
to me. You'll be cheap.
You were talking about the Bagai flood, is how you say it?
Bianchi.
Bianchi flood. Do you know what happened with that?
Her uncle saw it, I guess.
No. My mom and dad living here, they knew that
Right
this
on
was...
they live on the hill, right?
Not here. They lived
They lived
Right here.
Okay.
Yes. That...
It was up above
that dam
Above
that they
the
put in was not...
above
No,
them.
above... It's right up this this valley right here. This ravine. Yeah.
Ravine.
And that's up where Paris's used to be. That's on the top of the hill.
And what happened there? He put a reservoir or something?
He put
or
a dam across the creek here, illegally. And my dad, a dirt dam, wasn't engineered. He did not know what he was doing. And it was by my dad being here, I think he talked to him and said, you know, that's really a bad thing to be doing. He says, if that ever breaks loose, when we get a big collection of water in there, he said it's going to do a lot of damage. And sure enough, in several years with the rains would come. We had more rain then. And it finally filled that up to where there was a regular lake back there. My kids used to go back in there. I didn't like them to, but they would go back there and swim. And I said, I don't want you back there, you know. But they'd go back there and get in the water and swim and have a good time. And this is when I was in Indio. My son was living up here with his father right across the way here, which is Helen Nichols' place now. He had gone up there on a walk, and he seen some water kind of coming out of the dam. They'd had a lot of rain, and there was a lot of water behind that dam.
Bobby?
Bobby. And while he was there, it broke loose, and my son Bob at that time got up out of the way, and he said that water it was so scary, it was terrible. Bob was in his, he's 49 now.
It's been about 20 years.
Yeah, it's been about 20 or more.
It washed all her goats away down here.
Yes.
Down the canyon. Her little pygmy goats.
It picked up big boulders and just had them. My mom and dad said when this happened, they were worried about Bob being up there. Anyway, he hurried up and came here to the house. But they heard all of this water coming down. They said it was just a roar, a loud roar, and it was actually bringing great big huge boulders down with it and just rolling them like tennis balls. And it went all the way down the canyon. I'm not sure how far where it did damage. I mean, I think almost down to Canaras. It used to be that great big
it dissipated. It dissipated right by the Mercandantes, I think.
Yeah. It was starting
great.
Yeah.
Okay. You ever have any problems with intruders or people coming up here that are trespassing, or did you ever have that problem growing up or now?
Well, we didn't have that problem growing up, but at this point it's really sad because the back part of the canyon, people use it for a dump site, and the Riverside County dump is maybe about 5 to 6 miles back here. The people don't want to drive that far, so they go back there. You'll see pickup load has got trash or whatever on it, and if you see it coming back in about 5 minutes and it's empty, you know that they've dumped the stuff back there somewhere. And
illegally, of course.
Illegal, yes. And the Riverside County at this point, we've asked them if we should take a picture of anybody that we see suspicious with a license plate, and they said, nope, there's really nothing you can do about it. Your word against theirs. They said all they do is they come out maybe once every 6 months or something with their great big dump trucks and bulldozers and whatever, and they clean up the mess. And so what they've done within the last couple of years is actually people have started dumping trash here in this local area. They've come up this canyon here. They dumped palm fronds. Great big it's taken us 2 loads out of here already. We still have another load to go.
On your property, they
on
are dumping stuff?
Yes, on our property. They think that they're dumping it where nobody can see. Well, I've got an eagle's eye view. If I'd have seen it happening, I would have known. But they probably do it in the middle of the night or something.
Okay.
Another thing that we had about 2 years ago is somebody dumped 5 to 6 dead goats up here, full bodies, right down the hill. And they were there for long enough. I thought maybe a squirrel had died somewhere, and that it was, dead under the porch or something. And the smell kept getting worse, and it would be certain times of the day I'd smell it worse. But my cousins Cheryl and Eddie came out here to visit, and we went down to my grandparents' property, and we found where someone had dumped 6 dead goats, and they were very, very in real bad shape. After 6 weeks, a couple months, they had gotten pretty ripe, and they had been dumped in black plastic bags. Well, these had been broken open, and some of the bones and stuff scattered from animals, coyotes. We have a lot of coyotes up here, and bobcats, and neighbor dogs, whatever.
What kind of animals do you have up here? Have you seen or? We
do have. I don't know if I want to say this. There has been some deer spotted.
They've always been deer up here.
Yeah, there always been deer, but with it getting
they're small.
The water situation, that's a hard thing. They have a hard time finding water. But we do have coyotes. We have bobcat, and our neighbors up here at the Consoli Springs said that they've been out riding their horses and they came across a mountain lion. Wow. Sebastian and Claire. It was not a bobcat, it was a mountain lion. Some people don't know the difference between the two.
Yeah, I do.
And it's very obvious what they are.
Do you know anything about motorcycles? Did people in the canyon ride motorcycles, or?
We still have motorcycles that come up here, and the 4-wheelers, they'll come up here racing up the road, and they're not supposed to be, it's supposed to be off-road, only. Mm-hmm. But they come racing up the main road here. And it's dangerous because this little 2-lane narrow road, especially this corner down here, they come flying up, and sometimes they're on this inside corner, and if someone were going down at the same time, they'd be a head-on right there.
Well, there used to be a racetrack right above you here. Yeah. Above the school.
Yeah. Many years ago.
Mountain climbing, I mean.
Many years ago, when in the 1950s, there was a motorcycle racetrack up there, and I think Johnny Consoli was one that had a lot to do with that. I think he got it going.
I forgot that.
I've been to some of the motorcycle races when I was a kid up there. We would go watch them. That was up behind the school property, and you go on up the hill, up the road behind there, and get up on where it's flattened. And that's where...
And it's across the street.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the left of the road.
Well, it was on the right also. Because they would get up there. They had flat areas, yes. But that was basically for parking. There'd be a lot of people there in their vehicles.
How many people would come?
I think at least 100 or more. Just to watch. And then the others are on their motorbikes. But they would go down and up and down the ravines and around circles, and they'd have a good time. I know Uncle Bob even took his motorcycle out
Oh,
there.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because remember I told you that was before, they all had motorcycles up here.
And then,
Jim did too.
and lastly, did people use dynamite up here? I'd like to know.
Why do you want to know that?
It seemed like
A long time ago in my grandfather's era, yes, they did have dynamite up here. They used it for clearing land, maybe getting some big boulders out of the way of where they wanted to put a structure. They had...
Was it cheaper than a tractor?
I don't even know if they had tractors.
Well, didn't I tell you about the dynamite that they found when they sold Grandma and Grandpa's property in the tunnel? They had to have some people come up that do those bomb things and go in it, because even though it was so many years old, it's still fragile. But nothing happened. But it was back in the tunnel.
How did they find the dynamite? They just went in the tunnel and found boxes of dynamite?
I think Rocky found it. They just found it back in the tunnel, and there was still canned fruit back in there.
Canned fruit?
Oh, yeah, jars. They weren't no good anymore. But,
of course.
yeah, it was under the house there.
My granddad, when I was a kid, he used dynamite also, and it was for the purpose of, it wasn't necessarily because you didn't have a tractor. It moved dirt a lot faster than having to shovel out a great big rock with just a shovel and maybe a few strong boys. My granddad used to hire some of his nephews, which would be Philip and Gary and all, to maybe come up and help a little bit with their strong backs. But the dynamite was something that I actually seen used when I was a kid. And
our family was out here and did what they wanted.
My granddad would want to, right, you had a little more freedom then.
Yeah.
My granddad would want to move a rock from, a boulder from this place so he could have a widened area, and so he would just blast it out.
I see.
That's interesting you found that, because are we all done?